Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's get straight to it. This whole idea of self-sabotage. While our sources are suggesting it might not be quite what we think,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to think, some behaviors hold us back, others move us forward, but what if?
Hmm.
What if they're actually coming from a pretty similar place?
Exactly that. And
Ugh.
you know that feeling, right?
Yeah.
Where you absolutely know what you should be doing. The path is clear,
Yeah.
but you just feel stuck.
Yeah.
You can't seem to make yourself do it consistently.
Totally. It's so frustrating.
Well, this deep dive is all about digging into that gap.
Yeah.
We're looking past just judging these behaviors as self-destructive.
Because the key idea here, based on what we've read, isn't that we're trying to mess things up for ourselves.
Right.
It's more like an unconscious attempt to protect ourselves. Maybe meet some need or deal with an emotion we're not facing head on.
Precisely. So that's our mission today, really to get under the hood and understand the why behind it all. And we've got quite a bit to unpack. We'll start with, what is self-sabotage according to these sources, then dive into the common ways it shows up.
Like resistance.
Yeah, resistance, hitting that upper limit where things feel too good, even stuff like perfectionism, how we handle emotions, maybe even just being busy all the time.
Yeah, the busy trap.
Right. We'll also look at how to tell if you're maybe in a cycle, how to spot those hidden subconscious commitments, those core needs driving things.
Mm-hmm.
The really big step of facing those buried emotions. And finally, this kind of crucial idea about separating action from feeling.
Sounds like a lot, but really important stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so first things first. Let's try and nail down what our sources actually mean by self-sabotage. What's the core definition we're working with?
Yeah. Okay. So at its heart, the material describes it as having two conflicting desires, basically, pulling you in different ways.
One conscious, one unconscious.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
consciously know what you want. You have that vision for your life, maybe, but you still feel stuck. You can't seem to move forward consistently.
It's that maddening feeling, knowing the what, but failing on the how.
Right. And the sources really stress this point. When you keep hitting these walls, these issues that seem huge, especially when the logical fix is obvious, but you just can't stick to it.
Yeah.
You're probably dealing with what they call big attachments, not just big problems.
Big attachments. Okay, that's interesting. What does that really mean?
Well, think of them as these really deep-rooted, often unconscious ties we have to certain ways of feeling or being, even if those ways are ultimately holding us back.
Like being attached to a feeling, even a negative one.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
The sources make this point. People generally do what they deep down want to do. So if a behavior keeps cropping up, there's a reason you're clinging to it, even if you're not aware of it. The key is finding that hidden why.
Okay, can you give some examples, like how these conflicting desires and attachments play out?
Sure. Imagine someone consciously wants to build wealth, right? Financial security. But maybe subconsciously they believe rich people are greedy or selfish or people won't like them. That hidden belief can totally sabotage their efforts to make money.
Ah, okay. The internal conflict.
Exactly. Or think about someone who wants career success, recognition, but they also have this really deep need to be liked, accepted.
Right.
So they might unconsciously worry that getting too successful will make others jealous or put them under scrutiny. And that fear, that potential threat to being liked, kind of outweighs the desire for success.
So the need for connection trumps the ambition unconsciously. That makes sense.
It does. And the sources also mention relationship patterns, why someone might keep ending up in unhealthy relationships.
Yeah, that's a common one.
It could be unconsciously recreating dynamics from childhood. Yeah, maybe love felt unstable, or like something you had to constantly earn. So you're drawn to that familiar feeling, even though it's painful.
We're trying to fix someone.
Exactly. Maybe mirroring a past dynamic where you felt responsible for someone else. There's this powerful unconscious pull towards what feels familiar, even if consciously we know it's not good for us.
It's like we're wired for familiarity over happiness sometimes.
That's a great way to put it. And here's where it gets even more interesting, according to the sources. People can actually become attached to having problems.
Attached to problems? How does that work?
Well, the problems can serve a protective function, bizarrely enough. Like, always underachieving might make you feel less visible, right?
Huh.
Less likely to be criticized.
Do you feel safer?
Yeah, safer from judgment, maybe. Or staying small in your comfort zone. It limits you, but it feels less scary than putting yourself out there. Even procrastinating gives you a temporary escape from tackling something difficult.
So the problem itself offers some kind of weird backwards benefit, like a safety blanket?
Exactly. The sources really emphasize that these surface issues we wrestle with, they're often just symptoms. Symptoms of deeper, unmet emotional needs.
Right.
You can't just try and force the coping mechanism away, the behavior you're calling self-sabotage, and expect the real issue to vanish. You've got to dig deeper, address the root cause, those unmet needs.
Okay, so that gives us a clearer picture of the what. Now, what does this actually look like day to day? What are some of those common patterns?
Good question, and the sources are clear. What counts as self-sabotage really depends on the context, right?
Yeah.
What's fine for one person might be bad for another.
Sure.
But the common thread, the thing that runs through it all, is being aware there's a problem. You know you want to change something, yet you feel this pull, this almost compulsion to keep doing the thing that's not working.
It's that disconnect again, knowing better but doing otherwise.
Exactly. And the sources lay out several specific patterns. Let's start with resistance.
Ah, resistance. That feeling. You can't start the project, you keep canceling plans you know are good, or just this tension when you think about a positive goal. Yeah, I think most people know that one.
For sure. And here's an important point the sources make. Resistance doesn't just show up when we're struggling. Often, it actually pops up when we're trying to thrive.
Really, when things are going well.
Yeah, when we're trying to step up, grow, create something meaningful. That new territory, it can feel psychologically risky. And boom, resistance kicks in.
So it's not just laziness then?
Not always, no. The sources suggest it might be your internal system saying, whoa, slow down. Is it really safe to commit to this new thing? Or maybe a warning sign that something isn't quite right with your plan or your beliefs about it.
Okay.
It feels different from just, not feeling bothered. Trying to just push through that real resistance without listening. That can backfire, make the internal fight worse.
So what's the advice then?
Pause, refocus, get super clear on what you want, when you want it, and why it matters to you. Really connect with that why. Then try to spot any unconscious limiting beliefs that might be fueling the resistance. And then step back into it when you feel that spark again, that genuine inspiration or clarity. The sources say the wanting often has to come first, before the consistent doing, especially after hitting resistance.
That's helpful. Don't just ram through it. Understand it, reconnect, and try again. Okay. What's the next pattern?
Next is hitting your upper limit. This is a fascinating idea. Basically, we all have this unconscious ceiling for how much good stuff, happiness, success, love we let ourselves experience.
Like a thermostat for joy.
Kind of, yeah. Gay Hendricks talks about this. When things get too good, better than what feels normal or familiar, we unconsciously do things to bring ourselves back down to our baseline comfort level.
Seriously, we sabotage good things.
It sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it can show up physically, weird aches, pains, getting sick, or emotionally suddenly feeling resistant again, or irritable, guilty, afraid.
Yep.
The sources suggest we're wired more for comfort and familiarity than for, peak happiness all the time. Push too far beyond that familiar zone, and the unconscious alarm bells go off. We act out to restore the old equilibrium, even if it's limited.
So how do you break that ceiling, allow more good stuff in?
Well, first, recognizing it is actually a good sign. It means you're growing.
Okay.
The key seems to be acclimating slowly. Gradually get used to the new, better normal. Expand that comfort zone bit by bit, not in huge leaps. Let your system adapt and set a new, higher jig line for what feels okay.
Gradual expansion. Getting used to feeling good. Makes sense. What's next?
Next up, uprooting. This is the pattern of constantly jumping ship. New relationship, new job, new city, new business idea, instead of sticking around and working through the challenges.
It's like always needing a fresh start.
Exactly. Often driven by maybe not having great skills for handling stress or conflict. So you run.
The geographic cure doesn't usually work, does it? Your problems tend to pack themselves.
Pretty much. It distracts you for a bit, but you don't actually solve anything or build resilience. The fix starts with seeing the pattern. Look back. Why did you leave that job? End that relationship. Move that time. What were the triggers?
Woof. That requires some honesty.
It does. Then get clear on what you really want long term. Do you want to build roots somewhere? Grow a career. Then, the hard part, learn to sit with the discomfort of attachment, of working through stuff instead of fleeing.
Facing the discomfort instead of running seems like a theme here.
Definitely. Okay, then we have perfectionism. We all know this one. Setting impossibly high standards right from the get-go.
Yeah, so you never start because you're terrified it won't be perfect immediately.
Right, and it completely blocks the actual process of learning and improving, which always involves mistakes and, not being perfect.
So how do you beat perfectionism?
The advice is pretty simple, but hard to do. Prioritize just doing it over doing it perfectly at first. Focus on making progress, not hitting some flawless ideal on day one. Get started, then refine.
Done is better than perfect, basically. Good reminder. Next pattern.
Limited emotional processing skills. This is when you kind of avoid situations because you're afraid of the uncomfortable feelings they might bring up. You don't feel like you have the tools to handle them.
So you shrink your world to avoid feeling bad.
Yeah, but the irony is it often leads to dwelling on the negative feelings you do have because they never get processed. It limits your life.
So what does healthy processing look like?
According to the sources, 3 steps usually.
Yeah.
1, get clear on what actually happened. 2, validate your feelings. Allow them. Self-compassion is key here. Maybe cry, journal, talk it out.
Okay.
And 3, once you've felt it, figure out a course correction. What do you want to happen next time? How can you aim for a better outcome?
Clarity, validation, action plan. That sounds really practical.
It is. Okay, next, justification. This is using excuses instead of actually doing the work.
Yeah.
Prioritizing the reason you didn't do it over the doing itself.
Oh, yeah. We can get really good at crafting excuses. It feels productive for a second.
Totally. But it doesn't move the needle. The sources say, measure outcomes, not intentions. Stop accepting your own excuses. Focus on doing one concrete, productive thing each day towards your goal. Judge your day by what you accomplished, not why you didn't.
Actions, not words. Results, not reasons. Got it. What else?
Disorganization, like physical chaos in your space. Sometimes that serves an unconscious purpose.
A distraction.
Often, yeah. A way to avoid facing tasks or feelings. If your desk is a mess, you have an excuse not to start that report, right?
Huh, maybe.
For some people, a clean space can actually feel uncomfortable because it removes the distractions, forces them to confront things.
So the fixes.
Start small, one drawer, one corner, build routines to maintain it. Set up your space to actually support your goals. Get used to the feeling of clarity an organized space can bring.
Outer order contributes to inner order. Makes sense.
Then there's attachment to what you don't really want. This is a big one. Chasing goals or living a life based on what others expect or what you used to want, but maybe don't anymore.
Climbing the wrong ladder, like you said earlier.
Exactly. Leads to feeling empty, even when you're achieving things. The fix. Brutal honesty with yourself. Do I actually want this?
And differentiating that from just feeling unmotivated or resistant.
Right. Is it genuine lack of desire or just fear of the effort?
Yeah.
Sometimes self-sabotage is a sign you're on the wrong path entirely. You need to be willing to redefine success for yourself right now. Maybe it's peace or travel or relationships, not the thing you thought it was.
Yeah.
Letting go makes space.
That takes courage to admit you were wrong or changed your mind.
Huge courage. Okay, next. Judging others. Gossiping, criticizing. It can actually block your own success.
How does judging others hurt me?
Well, the sources suggest if you're always finding fault with successful people or people who have what you want, you subconsciously start associating success with being flawed or disliked.
Ah, so you create a negative link in your own mind.
Exactly. Those judgments become your own internal rules, the way out. Practice non-judgment, try non-assumption, be compassionate, and consciously congratulate others for the things you desire. It weirdly opens you up to receiving it, too.
Stop projecting your own stuff onto others, basically.
Pretty much. Then there's pride, letting your ego run the show. Staying in a bad situation because you'd be ashamed to admit it failed, not acknowledging business flaws because you want to look like you have it all together.
Prioritizing looking good over actually being good or getting better.
You got it. The resolution is honest self-assessment, except you're not perfect. It's way better to let something go for your own well-being than to keep up appearances. Admit mistakes, ask for help. That's where real growth happens.
The vulnerability is strength again.
Absolutely. Next, guilt of succeeding. This happens a lot to caring, empathetic people, feeling bad about your own happiness or abundance when there's suffering in the world.
Yeah, that survivor's guilt feeling almost. How can I be okay when others aren't?
Right. And that guilt can lead to sabotaging your own gains, undermining finances, turning down opportunities, trying to get back to a more familiar, maybe less guilty state of lack.
So how do you deal with that?
Recognize it often crops up when you're moving from lack to having enough. Reframe success and money. See them as tools. Tools to help others, to make a positive impact, to buy time and resources, to contribute more.
Success is a resource for good, not a reason for guilt. Powerful reframe.
It is. Okay, then the classic fear of failing. This can stop you from even trying because you're scared of looking bad. Or It can creep in after you achieve something. This irrational worry, you'll lose it all.
Especially when you finally have something you care about losing.
Exactly. The key is differentiating. Failing because you didn't try is different from failing while you're stretching yourself, trying something new. That second kind of failure, that's just part of the process.
A stepping stone, not a stop sign.
Right. It's much worse to fail by default, by not even attempting it. Also, try to unpack the fear. What's the real, valid fear hiding behind the general anxiety? Addressing that core concern helps.
Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. Got it.
Precisely. Next, downplaying. Minimizing your wins, brushing off compliments, saying, oh, it was nothing.
Why do we do that? To not seem arrogant.
Partly. Maybe fear of seeming threatening or fear of peaking, like you can't possibly top this success. But it makes your achievements feel smaller, undermines your confidence.
So what's the antidote?
Consciously acknowledge and appreciate your successes. Big or small, don't compare. Own it. And reframe progress growth in one area usually helps others. It's usually gradual anyway. You don't have to shut down after one win.
Own your wins. Keep growing. Simple but effective.
Exactly. Then unhealthy habits, the obvious ones. Behaviors that directly clash with your goals.
Wanting to be fit, but eating junk food and skipping workouts.
The classic example often comes from that inner conflict. Desire for change versus fear of discomfort or attachment to the familiar.
How to break those.
Define healthy on your own terms first. How do you want to feel? What would you be doing? Then small, sustainable steps. Habits that fit your actual lifestyle. Make success easy, not a huge, daunting overhaul.
Incremental changes stick better?
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
Next, being busy. Constant motion, packed schedule. Sometimes it's just a way to avoid dealing with deeper stuff.
Ah, yes. The busyness badge of honor that's actually avoidance.
Exactly. Could be poor time management, sure. But could also be a way to feel important or needed or like you don't have time for the hard emotional work.
So what do you do?
First, be honest. Are you genuinely overloaded or creating the chaos? If overloaded, streamline, prioritize, delegate, say no if creating it. Get comfortable with quiet, with routine. Figure out what the busyness is protecting you from insecurity, lack of boundaries, and find healthier ways to cope.
Identify the function of the busyness. Very insightful.
It is, then, a big one. Spending time with the wrong people. Relationships that consistently drain you, make you feel insecure, stressed.
Yeah, those energy vampires.
They really shape your outlook and your future. They create this cycle of feeling less than the fix. Gradually phase them out. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Focus on building a circle that supports and inspires you, people with similar goals. Interactions should mostly leave you feeling energized, not depleted.
Choose your circle wisely. Your vibe attracts your tribe and all that.
Something like that, yeah. Lastly, worrying about irrational fears and the least likely circumstances. Getting totally consumed by improbable worst-case scenarios.
Catastrophizing, spinning out on the what-ifs.
Right. It's exhausting and stops you from acting. But often, these wild fears are actually masking deeper, more real anxieties.
So they're like a smokescreen.
Often. Instead of trying to control the 0.01% chance of disaster, explore the message. What real concern is being projected onto this crazy scenario? What do you really want to protect? Find healthier ways to create that safety.
Look for the real fear behind the fantasy fear. Okay.
So we've covered a lot of patterns there. Now, how do we actually know if we're caught in one of these cycles ourselves? What are the signs?
Yeah, that's the key question, isn't it? What are those telltale signs of being in a self-sabotage loop?
Well, the sources list quite a few. A big one is being way more aware of what you don't want than what you do want. Your focus is on the negative.
Okay.
Another is spending more energy trying to impress people who don't really like you instead of investing in supportive relationships.
Chasing approval.
Right. Also burying your head in the sand, avoiding basic facts, running from conflict. That kind of avoidance is a major flag.
Avoidance and lack of clarity. Got it.
Definitely. Also, caring more about appearing okay to others than actually being okay yourself. Prioritizing being liked over being genuinely happy or fulfilled.
Image over substance.
Exactly. And this is a big one. Being more afraid of your own feelings, especially the uncomfortable ones, than pretty much anything else. That fear of feeling is huge. Chasing goals without knowing your why. Treating the coping mechanism, the procrastination, the overeating, whatever is the problem, instead of looking deeper, that's another sign you're missing the point.
Focusing on the symptom, not the cause.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
Also, valuing your doubts more than your potential that negativity bias,
Hmm.
trying to care about everything, spreading yourself too thin, waiting for permission or external validation instead of creating things yourself.
Passive waiting instead of active creating.
Yeah, and maybe one of the most common. Constantly failing to see or appreciate how far you've actually come.
Hmm.
Only seeing the gap, never the progress.
That self-critical lens is powerful. Okay, so to really understand what's driving these patterns, we need to talk about identifying subconscious commitments, right?
Yeah.
What are those?
Yeah, these are key. Think of them as your primary, usually unconscious life goals. The things that deep down you prioritize above almost everything else, even if you don't realize it.
How do you even find those if they're
By
unconscious?
looking at your biggest struggles, the things you keep bumping up against, and also your strongest drives, the things that really motivate you, even if they seem contradictory. The root cause connecting those often points to your core commitment.
Find the common thread between struggles and drives.
Exactly. So maybe someone always struggles with relationship commitment and really values their freedom. Your core commitment might be to feeling free,
Oh,
or
yeah.
is someone who often overgives, burns out taking care of others,
Hmm.
and has a deep need to feel valued. Their core commitment might be to feeling needed. Someone
No.
with lots of anxiety and a strong need for predictability. Core commitment to being in control.
Mm.
Someone always seeking external approval and hating being alone. Core commitment to being loved by others.
Wow. These are powerful underlying drivers, aren't they? Shaping so much without us knowing.
Totally. And here's the next layer, which is crucial. These core commitments, they're often a kind of distorted attempt, a cover-up for your even deeper core needs.
Core needs.
And your core need is usually the opposite of your core commitment. Understanding this gives you another angle on your real purpose, what you're truly yearning for.
The opposite. How does that work?
So, if the commitment is to control, the underlying need is likely for trust. If the commitment is to be needed, the core need is to know you are wanted just for being you. If the commitment is to be loved externally, the core need is probably for self-love.
So the negative seeming commitment is trying clumsily to get a positive need met.
Exactly. And here's the link. The less your core need is met in healthy ways, the louder those commitment symptoms, the self-sabotaging behaviors tend to get.
Makes sense.
But when you start consciously meeting that core need directly, in healthy ways, the power of the self-sabotaging pattern starts to fade. Aligning with your core needs, your purpose, that's the path out.
That's huge. Understanding the need beneath the commitment gives you a real target to aim for.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
understanding the why is one thing, but we have to remember insight alone doesn't stop the behavior. That takes confronting repressed emotions and actually taking different action.
Right. The knowing-doing gap again. Translating understanding into change.
Yes. And when you do start stopping those old patterns, expect those buried emotions to come bubbling up. You might actually feel worse for a little while.
Because the pattern was keeping those feelings down.
Often, yes. The sources emphasize you probably already know intellectually what you need to do. The real barrier is the fear of feeling those emotions the behavior was helping you avoid.
The sabotage was emotional avoidance.
Pretty much. So resistance often comes up again here. That feeling of being stuck, remember, it can be a mask for deeper stuff. Don't just force through it. Ask. Why this feeling now? What's it telling me about this action? What do I need to feel safe here? Then reconnect with your why, that vision for the future. Motivation based on a better future beats resistance better than just willpower.
Inquire into the resistance, connect with the vision.
Right. You might also feel things like anger, sadness, inadequacy. The key is to make space for them. Observe them in your body. No judgment. Try to see how they connect to the old behavior. Were they always there underneath?
Feel it to heal it kind of thing.
Sort of. Tools can help here, like writing letters to your younger self, maybe from your future self, using mantras, creating a personal manifesto. Things to help process and release.
Actively processing, not just passively feeling.
Exactly. And this leads to the final, maybe most liberating lesson. Learning to disconnect action and feeling.
Disconnect action from feeling. Wait, how does that work? Don't you need to feel like doing something to do it?
That's what we think. But feelings, the sources argue, are basically comfort-seeking systems. They want familiarity because familiar feels safe. So new positive changes. They often feel uncomfortable at first, even if they're good for you.
So we can't rely on feelings to motivate positive change because change feels uncomfortable.
Often, yes. But you can train yourself. You can choose healthy behaviors through repetition. Use logic, reason, your clear intention to override that initial, ugh, I don't feel like it.
Override the feeling with intention.
Yes. Your emotions are valid, they give you info, but they aren't always accurate about what's possible or true now. They're often echoes of the past, tied to your comfort zone. You have to challenge feelings like, I'm worthless, or I'll definitely fail, or everyone will judge me. Recognize them as old tapes or
So
anxieties.
don't wait for motivation.
Don't wait. Take the action first, even a small action. Action builds momentum. Momentum often creates motivation and positive feelings. You have to kickstart the process, then let your energy and emotions catch up to the new, positive direction.
Initiate the action, let the feeling follow. Wow, it's a game changer when you get it.
Okay, let's try and wrap this deep dive up. So the core message seems to be self-sabotage isn't really about hating ourselves or wanting to fail. It's more like our subconscious trying to meet needs or handle emotions in clumsy, indirect ways. That's a perfect summary. We've looked at the definition, walked through so many common patterns, resistance, upper limits, perfectionism, all that. We dug into the roots, those subconscious commitments covering up core needs. We talked about facing the feelings that come up when you stop the pattern, and landed on this really empowering idea that action doesn't have to wait for feeling.
Right. So, for everyone listening, maybe think about one area where you feel stuck. Instead of just trying to willpower your way out of the bad behavior, ask, what need might this be meeting? What feeling might I be avoiding? And then, what's one tiny action I can take today toward what I want, even if I don't feel like it? Hopefully, this dive gives you a new way to look at it all, guides you to act with more intention, less like you're fighting yourself.
Exactly. And with that, I think we've covered the definition, the patterns, identifying commitments and needs, confronting emotions, and disconnecting action from feeling. Pretty comprehensive.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.